Neil Druckmann has come out to say that he doesn't think he has many games left in him. This is a very interesting story, one that I didn't think would happen so soon, but yeah, I think this is a hint. He's hinting at his exit from the AAA games business. Not that he's exiting the industry completely, but that, he's looking, eventually to step down from his position as the co-president of Naughty Dog. Neil Druckmann has been with Naughty Dog for a long time. He was co-director for the first The Last of Us, and I think he also had a hand in some of the Uncharted games as well. Bruce Straley, I believe his name is, who was the other co-director for The Last of Us, he left the company years ago. And since then, the company has released Uncharted 4, The Last of Us Part 2, and that's it. And then they've had their Last of Us TV show project and whatever game they're working on next. And we do know that Naughty Dog is working on something. We just don't know if it's The Last of Us Part 3 or if it's a new IP. We don't know yet. But he started working at the company as a gameplay programmer for Jak 3 and Jak X Combat Racing 20 years ago. And then he served as a co-writer for the Uncharted games, and then as a creative director on the Last of Us games. And he did come out to say that he did have an idea for The Last of Us, a third The Last of Us. And, apparently Naughty Dog is working on some kind of new IP. But what's interesting about this article is that it states that Druckmann believes that he wants to move, to a different medium. And he wants to work in other spaces like television, which clearly seems to be his interest. I don't know why he doesn't just go ahead and get out now. But he has stated right here in a quote, "I can see myself transitioning to something that's more low-key and lower stress, that still allows me to have this creative outlet. But, I've started thinking about how many more of these games I have in me, and it's not that many." Honestly, I think that after Naughty Dog's next major release, I think Druckmann will announce his, retirement from the company. I think that'll be it for him. I recall seeing another article in which Druckmann talked about wanting to spend more time with his daughter. Apparently he has like a 13-year-old daughter or something like that. He wants to spend more time with his kid. And I thought that was an interesting revelation that the man has a daughter, because that might explain the direction, a good portion of the direction that The Last of Us Part 2 went in. Because there was a lot of feminism in that game. A lot. And when it comes to being a parent, I guess your worldview is skewed very heavily, especially if you have a daughter. So I think that might explain a number of the story decisions that was made with that game. But when it comes to Neil Druckmann overall, I think he's done more harm than good to the company with the release of The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 is a horrible game. It's bad. It's weird because gameplay-wise, if you just play The Last of Us Part 2 and ignore the story, skip all the cutscenes, pretend the story isn't even there, which is not easy to do. I replayed the game last year from start to finish. If you just play the game, simply purely for the gameplay, it's actually a really damn good, game. It's a much stronger game than the first one, just judging from the gameplay. But when you factor in the story and whatnot, it's very clear that Naughty Dog made a lot of mistakes with that game. A lot of serious mistakes. And they split the fan base right down the middle because of creative decisions, many of which came from Neil Druckmann. And now they got, season 2 of The Last of Us TV show that's, coming out at some point. They've already announced a lot of the major casting choices for the characters that appear in The Last of Us Part 2. I don't even know how that's even going to fare, because a lot of the people that watched The Last of Us TV show have never played the game. And so I'm not sure how that particular crowd is going to react to, whatever they do with Season 2, which is, based off of, the story of the game itself. So that should be interesting to see when it finally comes. But yeah, if they do The Last of Us Part 3, which I think they will, it's really going to be hard for, for them to make a story that's satisfying and has a satisfying conclusion to the story after, what they did with the second game. Because the second game pretty much ruined the entire IP. Once again, thanks to the direction of Neil Druckmann and his co-writer, Haley Gross. So, yeah, I think if I was Neil Druckmann, I would get out sooner than later. But I think whatever Naughty Dog's next game is going to be, he's going to end up being the director for it, for better or worse. That leaves me very little to be excited about, whether it's The Last of Us 3 or it's a new IP. But interesting story nonetheless.